Good evening, I'm Ivana Smith, and tonight we're talking about the political firestorm that just exploded between California Governor Gavin Newsom and President Donald Trump, because a sitting governor of the United States just called the president a brain-dead moron who bombs children and protects pedophiles, and the president had already called him mentally unfit just hours before. So let's break down exactly how we got here, what it means, and why this particular fight is about far more than two powerful men trading insults online. It all started when Newsom opened up publicly about his lifelong struggle with dyslexia during a book tour stop in Atlanta, speaking vulnerably about his academic struggles growing up and telling the crowd he was no better than anyone else in that room. And in his memoir, Young Man in a Hurry, he wrote about his childhood challenges and his eventual diagnosis, even calling his dyslexia a superpower. In a CNN interview with Dana Bash, saying it gave him the drive to work harder and think differently than his peers, and that moment of personal openness, that willingness to be vulnerable in front of a national audience, was apparently all Trump needed to launch an attack. Trump took to Truth Social, calling Newsom's book tour appearance perhaps the most self-destructive interview he had ever seen, and then speaking directly to reporters in the Oval Office. Trump said, and I'm quoting here, "We have a low IQ person, because Gavin Newsom has admitted that he has learning disabilities." And he went even further by suggesting that a president should simply not have learning disabilities, full stop. No nuance, no qualifier, which sent immediate and widespread shockwaves through disability advocacy communities, educators, and parents across the entire country who heard those words and understood exactly what message was being sent to the millions of American children and adults who live with learning differences every single day of their lives. Newsom did not stay quiet for even a moment. He fired back on X, calling Trump a brain-dead moron who bombs children and protects pedophiles. And before anyone dismisses this as simple name-calling, it is important to understand that this was not random. It was surgical and deliberate, because Newsom was directly referencing two specific and serious controversies surrounding the Trump administration: the still unresolved and deeply controversial handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files, which millions of Americans across the political spectrum have been demanding answers on, and separate reports circulating at the time suggesting that U.S. airstrikes against Iranian targets in late February had struck a girls' elementary school, killing nearly 200 people, the vast majority of them children. Newsom also posted a second, quieter, and in many ways more powerful message directed specifically at young people across the country, writing to every kid with a learning disability that they should not let anyone, not even the President of the United States, bully them. And that second message, stripped of all the political aggression, may have done more lasting and meaningful political work than all the fireworks combined, because it spoke directly to families, to teachers, to school counselors, to the parents sitting at kitchen tables helping their kids through homework struggles they know all too well. Trump did not pull back, not even slightly. He doubled down, telling reporters in the Oval Office for at least the third time in recent days that presidents should not have learning disabilities, also calling Newsom obviously a racist in response to remarks made during the Atlanta book tour stop, and declaring him flatly no longer a viable presidential candidate, while Newsom's press office wasted no time shooting back with a statement saying, "Grandpa's talking about himself again," and encouraging the president to seek mental health treatment. And at that point, what had started as a political dispute had fully transformed into something that looked more like a public street fight between two of the most recognizable political figures in the United States. Now, let's zoom out, because this is not just two powerful men insulting each other on the internet. Several much larger and more consequential things are happening simultaneously beneath the surface of all this noise. First, there is the undeniable 2028 shadow campaign that is playing out in real time, because Newsom has not announced a presidential run, but is widely seen across the political establishment as one of the Democratic Party's top potential contenders, and every single one of these exchanges keeps his name in the national conversation at maximum volume, builds his fundraising network, sharpens his ideological contrast with Trump, and functions as a very high-profile political audition on the national stage, whether he admits it or not. And every time Trump attacks him by name, Trump is essentially doing Newsom's advertising for him. Second, the disability politics dimension of this story is genuinely significant and should not be glossed over or treated as a footnote, because dyslexia affects roughly 1 in 5 Americans across every demographic and has absolutely no connection to overall intelligence. Some of the most consequential figures in American history, from entrepreneurs to scientists to public servants, have navigated dyslexia throughout their careers. And when a sitting president of the United States implies on the record in front of reporters that a learning disability disqualifies someone from the highest office in the land, that sends a direct, painful, and lasting message to millions of parents, teachers, teachers, students, and adults navigating these exact conditions every single day, a message that says their struggles make them lesser. And Democratic strategist James Carville captured the outrage precisely when he addressed Trump directly in a widely shared video, asking whether Trump was really going to look parents of children who learn differently in the eye, tell them their child cannot grow up to be president. Third, by deliberately weaving references to the Iran airstrikes and the Epstein files into what appeared on the surface to be a personal insult, Newsom forced those serious and still unanswered policy and accountability questions back into the national headlines and made them considerably harder to dismiss as mere partisan political talking points. He tied the personal to the political in a way that expanded the scope of the story far beyond the original exchange. Here is the honest takeaway tonight. American political discourse has entered a phase where the line between substantive policy debate and personal insult has essentially dissolved into nothing. Both men are seasoned and disciplined political fighters who are playing very deliberately to their respective bases, and both understand that outrage drives engagement. Engagement drives media coverage drives fundraising, and fundraising drives power. But what consistently and tragically gets lost in all of it are the real things happening to real people. The children reported killed in airstrikes whose names we do not know. The documents that millions of Americans across party lines are still waiting to see. And the everyday emotional cost of a president publicly dismissing learning disabilities in a country where 1 in 5 people live with them and are watching these exchanges on their phones. The Trump-Newsom feud is not ending anytime soon. If anything, it is just finding its rhythm and stride, heading into what could be the most consequential and polarizing election cycle in a generation. And the question is not whether they will keep fighting each other in public, because they absolutely will. The question is whether the rest of us, voters, viewers, parents, and citizens, can hold onto the substance underneath all the noise and refuse to let the spectacle crowd out the stakes. I'm Ivana Smith. If this breakdown gave you the context and the clarity you needed tonight, hit subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, and we will see you in the next one.